What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another amazing episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to you, the digital agency owner and leader for growing and scaling your agency faster. On today's episode, I have a gentleman that the owner actually found 6 years ago when they wanted to take a step back, which a lot of you would love to find your replacement where you can kind of take a step back, pick and choose to do what you want, and really find that president. So we're going to talk about that transition, how she found him, and what you should be looking for in a president of your agency. So let's go ahead and chat with him now. All right, welcome to the show.
Hi there, nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. I'm Chintan Shah, President of KNB Communications. We are a full-service marketing and PR firm dedicated to the healthcare, especially the health technology and life sciences space.
Awesome. And so how did you get into agency life? Like, did you work for an agency before this, or were you kind of pulled into kind of what I was alluding in the very beginning?
Yeah, my career actually started in sales. I carried a bag. I worked for IBM in New York City. And that's how I started my career. As I moved throughout my career, I found myself in marketing and product development at one point, product management. And at one point, I was leading a sales and marketing division for a medical device company. And we were introducing a new technology. And as we were scaling, we went out and I evaluated a number of different firms that would help us scale for marketing and PR. And we landed on a company called KNB Communications. And we've been working with them for about three and a half years to grow our little medical device business that we were bringing to market. And so through a conversation that kind of happened as a result of circumstance, the woman who started the business at KNB Communications, she had founded it. She reached out to me as a client and said, "Hey, I wanted to give you a heads up that I'm looking to take a step back from my business. It's health related, and I'm looking to find someone to come in, step in, help lead my business. Do you know anybody?" And I was at a great point in my career. I was looking for kind of my next big adventure, and it turned out I said I do know somebody. And in fact, you know him pretty well too. And it was perfect timing on both sides. We got to know each other a little bit better, and I stepped in and have been leading KNB now for almost 6 years.
Awesome. So first kind of lesson here for everyone listening is start with your personal network when you're looking for that person. And probably the second one is probably understand the criteria of what you're looking for, because as she was probably describing, because I can guarantee you right now, a lot of people are like, "Hey, I'm looking for a president." Well, what do you want the president to do?
Right, right. Yeah, I think the first part of what you said was reach out to people. This may be something you don't want to share, or broadcast openly, or yell from the mountaintops. But I think if you selectively reach out to folks, certainly important clients, which hopefully all of your clients are important. But client contacts, others within your network, to let them know that you're looking for someone. And I think identifying some of the top criteria, whether it's experience, if that's what's relevant for you, or whether it's something outside of expertise within an agency. Maybe you're looking for something new or something different to take your business to the next step. I think that's an important point to clarify to the people that you do reach out to.
So if your background was around sales and product development, how did you get up to speed? Like what was kind of the process that you went through in order to really run the agency?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of similarities in the marketing side, where I had a lot of experience, and even the sales side. As part of an agency, there's a few different key components to growth and to sustaining the business. Certainly, sales and business development are, if not half, maybe 51% of the battle. And the other 49% is sustaining your current client base, growing from there. I think I certainly leveraged the areas that I knew really well early on as I learned other parts of the business. So for me, looking at growth, looking at bringing in new business, defining some of our capabilities that were core at the time that I joined, and then looking for other growth areas that would be easy for us to adopt, both in terms of personnel and in terms of execution. I certainly leaned on those early on. And I really immersed myself in, for example, the public relations aspect of our business. Not that it was unfamiliar to me, but I had never served in a PR role for an agency before. I'd certainly helped lead the PR for our business and in other roles that I'd held. So that was something where I really leaned on my team, and we had some extremely capable individuals that were more than willing to not only teach, but and I wasn't too big for my britches to say, listen, this is an area you have a lot more expertise and experience in. I'd love to join calls, and I'd love to just be a fly on the wall and hear how you tackle them.
Which one of the things that I would think it would be hard, and you tell me if this was hard, was there anybody in the organization that was like, hey, I should have been the one promoted rather than bringing this dude in from outside? Like, how did you get over that?
Yeah. Well, I think there at the time I joined, there had been some change ups. There had been some people that had left. There were certainly a few new people as well. And I think the biggest challenge was actually there were some people that worked on my company or with me as a client, and I had gotten to know some of them well, and some of them were newer. I don't think there was anyone at the time that I joined that would have felt like, hey, I should have been in this role. I think that was probably a good move that person had separated with the company and had moved on to something else, and that's actually what probably led to the necessity to bring somebody like myself in. But there were certainly some unique conversations and differences in the hierarchy. Having been a client, as we know, that I may have been a difficult client. We could certainly go back and ask some of the folks that were on the team then. But having a very different type of relationship with those folks, it was important to me to establish a completely different relationship than had been in place previously.
I'm just thinking, especially since you were a client and you
Right.
come in and then you're like, all right, let's go over all our clients. Like, which ones are the really good ones? Which ones are the shitty ones? If anybody was like, yeah, you were.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of people that were, open to being blunt, whether it was about me or about, or our business or about others. I think I learned pretty quickly that, yeah, there were some things that were challenging. I don't think I fell in the bottom, 10% of worst clients. I may not have been in the top 10% of best
I'm
either.
just busting your chops on that one.
Yeah,
You set me up on that one pretty good. What
that's right.
looking back, from the past 6 years, like when you were coming in, what would you have done different in order to get yourself? And I'm looking at it more as, the agency owners bringing in a president to take over, run, the agency. What would you have done differently in order to get yourself up to speed a lot faster, or what mistakes could you have avoided now knowing?
Hmm. Hmm. I think a couple. I think on the business development front, I think we certainly could have been more aggressive to try to win new business faster. Part of what I did coming in and assessing the state of the business, in looking at existing clients in our portfolio, defining some of our capabilities. That took some time to do, to really understand what are we really good at, where should we, where is there growth potential. I think PR was at the core and has been and continues to be at the core of our business. That's how we started the business back in 1998 and continues to be a key part today. I think while that was a core part of the business, there were a lot of digital marketing aspects that we were doing, some well, some not as well. And I would like to have maybe leaned into a few of those better and faster to be able to secure new business to allow us to continue to grow a little bit faster early on. And maybe I took a fairly measured approach to certain types of new clients. We jumped in with others, and we're successful with most, and there were some unsuccessful stories in there as well. But I think the speed that we could have moved earlier on, knowing that there were some challenges with operations and processes and personnel and all of those things, notwithstanding, I do think that was probably one of the areas we could have moved a little bit quicker.
Does sales fix everything?
It doesn't. No, as a former salesperson, and I would say still a salesperson, I wouldn't say that that's the case at all. I think it has to be part and parcel of the overall agency success. There, you have to have scalable processes. You have to have tools and technology that'll help you. And I think the other key component to this thing is, I probably leaned into myself and felt like I need to have a key role in different aspects of running the organization early on. And as I learned and saw myself letting go of some aspects and having not only the confidence, but the processes in place to let others manage those, it certainly helped us grow a lot faster.
What expectations, if the roles were reversed and you were bringing in a president, what expectations and how long would like when would you want to start seeing results, if you brought someone in? Because there's a lot of agency owners listening right now that they, we were forced to do this job. Like we knew, like most of us were accidental. Probably like your founder was probably accidental how she got into this, and we didn't really want to manage people. We just knew how to do something cool, and we were good at it, and people offered us money, and then it's kind of grown into this own beast. And sometimes it outgrows us as an owner. And we don't know, like, we know we need to bring in someone, but we don't understand what are the expectations, what are the different levers that we need to give, how much control do we give to them right away? Is that tiered? What do you recommend there?
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that was done very well by Shireen Bond, who started the business, is in the getting to know you phase ahead of my joining, and then especially early on in the immediate time after I joined, we really sat down and set up the goals and the expectations of what success would look like. Certainly we say that to clients, and we do that with our clients as well. But I think doing that as a business is also important. And it's really saying what kind of growth is realistic and reasonable, what kind of additional investment could be needed. Looking at the client portfolio, looking at the growth that you're expecting, that's going to then translate into the type of additional resources you may need as well. But I think having specific numbers and putting a business plan or at least a forecast together that says, here's what we expect, and really diving into the numbers and making sure everybody is in alignment. And then you can assess, on a monthly basis, certainly on a quarterly basis, how are we doing and where are there shortcomings if there are any. I think too often in some of what I've experienced in other business areas or with some of our clients or in partnerships, everybody says, well, let's jump into it and let's be successful. And it hasn't really been defined exactly what that success might look like from a measurable standpoint.
So what would be some of the KPIs that you were bringing in someone to replace you right now? What would be the KPIs that you would look at and measure them on a monthly basis?
Sure. Well, I think you start with the two key numbers that most agency owners probably look at, which is top line revenue, and then net income, EBITDA, however you want to define it. Um, I think those are obviously two, but I think you look at number of clients in your portfolio. You can look at ability to upsell or cross sell existing clients, and that may ultimately result in a higher top line, hopefully as well as the bottom line. But I think those are a few. I would look at the size of your team as well as the split between any kind of full-time team that you have, any type of contractors, 1099s that might be supporting the business. I think as you try to scale, there's a mix, and many companies, may fully invest in full-time staff. Others have some kind of hybrid. I think looking at all of those things together and finding where you're over leveraged and where you might not have enough resources, a balance that takes some learnings, and certainly would be different for different types of agencies also.
Got it. This is great. Well, this has all been amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the agency owners listening in?
I think one of the things that I have learned is I've truly jumped, maybe not to the dark side, right? But I've jumped that wall from being a customer and having a perspective as a client to the other side of being in charge of the agency, leading our services, leading our growth and business development. And I really believe that having that dual perspective is something that everybody should try to instill. I certainly understand it's hard if you haven't actually sat on both sides of that fence. But all of us are consumers at various points. So even if you're the agency and the service provider, you can certainly put yourself in a customer's shoes. That is something that we impart heavily on KNB often, in our team is very, very often talk about let's stop what we're discussing and put ourselves in the shoes of our customers, and let's try to understand the challenges from their perspective, whether it's the politics that they might have internally, the budgetary constraints, the leadership expectations. And when you do that, sometimes the frustrations you have or the challenges in reaching a deliverable, they suddenly become a lot more understandable, and you then can think creatively on how to overcome them. And I think that has to start at the top. That's really the key for the leadership, is offering different perspective. Everybody can pile on if something's not working. That's easy. But bringing that new perspective in, I think, allows the team to really consider alternatives and really be more creative, with our customers too.
Great advice. Awesome. What's the agency website people can go and check you guys out?
It's knbcom with 2ms.com.
Awesome. Well, make sure everyone go check that out. And if you guys want to scale your agency faster and have the ability to kind of pick and choose to do the things that you want, it really comes down to having the right agency systems in place. From where is the agency going? How are you positioning the agency? What's the right offering in the right order? How are you doing your prospecting so it's not all in the same thing? How are you converting on sales? How are you delivering? How are you operations? And how are you becoming a better leader and making better leaders in your organization? If you want to know all of this, I want you guys to go to jasonswank.com/playbook, request an invite. And this is our online framework. It's broken down into 8 systems. A lot of you have it. And if you guys do have it, you should go back over to it, because once you're in, you have it forever, and we're always updating it. So make sure you go check out the agency playbook. And until next time, have a swank day.